This week, the FBI announced that it is now investigating a string of mysterious deaths and disappearances involving top U.S. scientists over the past several years. Some had reported ties to the UAP, the UFO community.
Disappearing people is not garden variety espionage.
It is not garden variety espionage. And none of this strikes me as garden variety espionage. It's very unusual.
This is something you'd expect to see in a Hollywood movie or in a novel.
This morning, members of Congress are set to take on a deepening mystery after at least 10 American scientists, all with ties to U.S. nuclear or space research programs, have died or disappeared.
It does appear that there's a high possibility that something sinister is taking place here.
Anti-gravity technology. The stakes are very high as to national security purposes on what she was working on. Oddly is this allegation that she was a victim of directed weapon energy. That's a rare thing, but also just adds more intrigue to this story.
The case of the general is particularly perplexing to me, especially because you had somebody who had such a high rank, who had such vast knowledge of such programs, and was gone for a while before anybody put together a person with deep intelligence background, and he's missing.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad. We're a podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. We are your hosts, Woody Brown
and Tyler Bentz.
What's up, dude?
Hey, pal.
I mean, things are
pretty
getting crazy.
Yeah, things are getting crazy. And we're going to find out that it's not only here domestically, that it possibly may be an international issue.
Right. Now, before we dive in, I do want to lead off kind of with saying first, almost like a disclaimer up top here, which is we're going to be talking about real people, scientists, engineers, family members whose loved ones are still grieving. And some of these cases that we're going to talk about involve really heavy stuff, such as, I'm going to say this in a way that won't get the whole episode flagged, but like unaliving oneself, mental health challenges, depression. And so I want to say just right out of the gate that if you're listening and you're, struggling with thoughts of self-harm or depression or anxiety or just, feeling like everything is too heavy right now, definitely reach out to somebody. Even, I'm not sure how much we'd be able to help, but, you could reach out to us too, and we would point you in the right direction. Ultimately, know that here in the U.S., you can call or text 988, which is the crisis lifeline. And so anyhow, I just wanted to say that up top, because some of the things and themes that we'll talk about involve some of that. And it just made me think, hey, there are people out there, some of our listeners potentially, who might be listening to this show who are dealing with stuff. And, there's people out there that truly have the toolbox necessary to help you through it. So, don't waste any time. Definitely get help.
And also, not to feel like an outsider, but I think a lot of us experience these things.
Yeah.
I've dealt with depression through the years, so it's not something that I think you should try to hide over reaching out for help. You know what I mean? Right,
for sure. And even in my own experience I read something actually interesting in a book just the other day. It's fiction, but sometimes in fiction there's these things that you just have to write down, and one of them is everyone is afraid of something.
Right.
And so there should definitely not be any shame involved with reaching out to someone to get help, Anyhow, jumping into this week's topic, I will say this is somewhat uncharacteristic of myself to sort of, I guess, go after something that's so fresh in the news, topical, I guess, especially if there's any sort of quote unquote conspiracy theory involved, right?
Oh, Woody hates it.
Well, no, I don't hate it. It's just...
He's scared.
No.
This is one of Woody's fears, actually.
No. I don't know. There are a lot of them that, as I've said on the show before, kind of get on my nerves sometimes. Or I can see how things, because of communication and because of how quickly things can spread online, it just kind of takes a life of its own and then, whatever. However, there's just something about this that's just undeniable in terms of strange. And that's part of the reason why both Tyler and I were like, look, man, it just keeps happening. Mm-hmm. The list is sort of just stacking higher and that's just the confirmed cases.
Right.
And we just wanted to talk about it, not in a way to sort of like prove a theory, more talking about the people, their potential connections, their definite connections, and also what the different theories are that are out there, and then kind of what we think about it all.
Right.
And I think that, unless you've been ignoring the news altogether, which is possible these days, I find that that's potentially, speaking of mental health, really healthy in a lot of ways. But you've, I'm sure, seen these reports, right, even on major news networks and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's gone beyond sort of like the internet conspiracy theory at this point. These are reports that even are leading to federal review from different organizations, FBI, Oversight Committee, all the way up into the White House, talking about these experts in things like advanced propulsion, exotic materials, fusion, planetary defense, hypersonics, and even anti-gravity concepts, mm-hmm, who have just gone missing or deceased.
Right.
So like I said, our plan today is to sort of just go over these. If you're someone that hasn't really dove too deep, because maybe you're more like me and you're just kind of like, oh, here we go again. And you just kind of, change the channel or go to the next YouTube video or whatever, mm-hmm, then this is going to kind of fill you in and sort of catch you up. If you're more like Tyler and you already know a lot of this stuff, then I think you'll also sort of enjoy, I guess, hearing more about these people, what they studied, and and also just kind of get into some of the other stuff that we've uncovered while researching this.
Yeah, I mean, and I also think if you are sort of a quote unquote like normie and you don't tend to lean into the conspiratorial side of things, I think even those types of people have to kind of look at this with any sort of critical thinking, and you'll see that it's like, okay, there's something going on, right, because they all seem to be connected, and they all seem to be in similar, while also very different, which kind of lends more credibility in my opinion. But it's this weird sort of umbrella of like topics that they all sort of study, and I mean, there's got to be something going on. So maybe it is just that we live in a simulation, but there's something to this.
Yeah. And so I think we should just dive right in.
Okay.
Let's start with Amy Eskridge, whose story actually has resurfaced recently because of this wave that we're seeing in these similar circumstances, right? Even though it happened back in 2022. So Amy was just 34 when she was found dead in Huntsville, Alabama on June 11th, 2022. She was incredibly accomplished, double major in chemistry and biology from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Now, anybody listening that's not from the States, you might not know that Huntsville, Alabama is a major sort of NASA area. There's a space station there.
Oh, yeah.
And, I can't remember the movie Space Camp well enough to know if they went to Huntsville or Cape Canaveral.
Oh, I think it may have been Cape Canaveral. Yeah.
I don't remember. I have to rewatch it. I've got it on VHS. You betcha.
Okay.
So after that, after the double major in chemistry and biology, she then dove into electrical engineering, physics, plasma physics, and genetic engineering. She co-founded the Institute of Exotic Science with her father, Richard Eskridge, who was a retired NASA employee. So her focus was on experimental propulsion. Specifically, this will kind of, well, I don't know that it'll become a pattern, but you're going to hear this more, I think, throughout these individuals. But her focus was specifically on anti-gravity or gravity modification research. Okay. So ideas about sort of offsetting or manipulating gravity for some, breakthrough aerospace applications on paper.
Yeah, which if you are old school fans of this kind of stuff, Bob Lazar, that's a lot of what was sort of big in his sort of field of study and expertise.
Yeah. Or maybe just even Back to the Future 2. Okay.
That's true. Right.
And you know that a hoverboard, you can't take it across water.
Hey, McFly, you bojo! Those boats don't work on water unless you've got power!
Anyway, so she gave plenty of public talks on this, including one where she described the Institute as a way to disclose anti-gravity technology. Now, what's kind of gone viral is about a month before her death, she sent texts to various friends that have gotten a lot of attention. Things like, if you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not.
Yeah.
If you see any report that I OD'd, I most definitely did not. She's described also in this video, there's one in particular that you can find anywhere online, but she's described believing that direct energy weapons were targeting her.
Right.
And shows on screen these burns on her hands. It's kind of, it's something to see because it looks almost as if, whenever you, you get a sunburn, but it's early spring, and so it's not quite hot enough to just, it's still, I don't know how to explain it, to where you're like, oh, well, man, it's hot enough to wear some shorts, but you don't feel it on your skin as well. And so whenever I always equate it to if you go to a Braves game or a baseball game, and then you come back home and you just got this hard line, tan line, where it's just like, what? I didn't even know I got that much sun. That's kind of what it looks like on her hands, but only in a straight line, only partially covering her line. Covering her hand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know that I'm doing the description justice, over the airwaves here, but you got to see this video because it's very intriguing looking.
And then also one of the things that in the video, she's talking about how she experienced this, and then to remedy this, I guess her and her husband, boyfriend, I don't know, I think there's a male in the video, but they end up putting these blue tarps over the window. And again, back to Tyler's conspiracy corner, like the Hawaii fires that happened that were melting cars. Obviously, the weird part about that is anything that was painted blue for some reason did not burn. And so because they're sort of laser based, there's certain sort of colors or filters that it will not, it won't, combust basically on the surface. And so that's where that thinking comes from, if you were wondering.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. See, I didn't know that. Skip past all those videos back in the day. Okay.
They're crazy.
So she also would share these photos, of course, of these injuries. And then a former British intelligence officer later shared that she had expressed genuine fear for her life in their conversations. Now, her death was officially ruled a self-unaliving by self-inflicted gunshot wound. Her father has been very public and firm that he does not believe it was suspicious. He said that, well, in his own words, that scientists die like anyone else, and he's asked people to respect the family's grief and not push conspiracy narratives. And of course, it puts Tyler and myself in a weird spot because here we are talking about it. However, like I said at the top, our purpose in the show anyway isn't to prove anything, right? We're just kind of, this is just stuff that's out there. It's happening, and it's very difficult to not think something strange is going on because, as you'll see, the level of expertise and what these folks are experts in their fields of research and profession is just one after the other very, very interesting. So that, again, was June 11th, 2022. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing about her is she was also sort of a victim of what's called gang stalking. Do you know what that is?
I mean, I think I could surmise what it would be, but
Well, it's not like gangs actually stalking her, but usually the belief is that it's connected to some sort of black budget government, maybe even more sort of obvious 3-letter agencies. And they kind of go through, if you've seen the documentary Mirage Men, it's a good sort of breakdown of like some of the techniques that they would use. I mean, granted, this was like way back, but there's a thing called like voice to skull technology, to where they basically kind of torture you by sending like a signal that like only you can hear. And there's a lot of those things. Her house was broken into, nothing was stolen, but things were just moved around. It's almost like a way of saying, hey, whatever you're doing, which we don't really know what they were doing. I mean, we know the fields that these people were working in, but we don't really know the stuff that hasn't come out. And so it's almost a way to say, hey, like, we're on to you and you're in danger if you keep doing this. And
it's like psychological warfare.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I jotted that documentary name down. I love documentaries.
Yep. It's really good. And it used to be on Netflix.
Okay. So I'm going to check that out. Mirage Men. Yeah, that's super interesting, because I think that's definitely something that she was explaining. And if you think about it in terms of, because I think some folks that I've seen online, specifically her, when they watch the video, there are certain aspects that they, I guess, I don't want to say they judgingly, but they say, that she is seemingly mentally not well. Now,
see, I don't see that at all.
Well, there's some like hyperverbal stuff that she does, and sort of, I don't know how to explain it. Well, I noticed some characteristics as well of like almost manic behavior. Now, again,
well, but let me say, I
was just going to say real quick. Hold on, real quick. Okay. I was going to say these would be a direct result, in my opinion, of that kind of psychological warfare, if that is what they were doing. And what is it called? Gang stalking. That would cause you to become more paranoid and become more, you know what I'm saying?
Well, there's that, but then there's also like, I mean, for our longtime listeners of the show, I mean, myself, like when I get it talking about something that I'm just like, extremely passionate about, or I mean, Woody too, like things that we've recently sort of,
not me,
like got really into, and we've spent hours and hours of research into these topics. It's like, I think the average person would probably listen and be like, this dude's nuts. Yeah. Like he's just
when they say the word person and they pronounce it Persian, like you just did.
But I think there's a little bit of that. And then, probably to your point, I mean, it's akin to that. We would have like POWs and we would play like heavy metal for,
right.
Weeks at a time without stop. It's like, it just drives you absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Cause there's something like, when you watch the video, I mentioned the word hyperverbal, but when you watch it, you might, or even manic, you might disagree initially, because it's almost, there's something that seems, there's it kind of seems like she's intoxicated. Or
that's what I think too.
And so like, but also, especially right after you said the gang stalking, immediately it's like, okay, that would make someone paranoid. That would make them, well, in some cases, even like, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying that she was delusional, so to speak, but you would start to like suspect everything in your paranoia, and also lose sleep. And so she very well might not have been intoxicated. She could just be, hey, I haven't slept in days. I've got, whatever kind of energy weapons being pointed at me and stuff. So anyhow, I just wanted to mention that because folks have kind of brought that up online now.
Well, real quick, before we move on, I thought it was you and I and like the band days, but do you remember when, I want to say it was like maybe New York, maybe Philly, we were like walking around and there was like a billboard for some movie, and basically if you stood in this spot, you could hear the ad. Do you remember this? But basically if you stepped outside of the circle, you no longer could hear it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I'm talking about. Like this is even more, and it's just, like I said before, voice to skull technology, but it's a way that they're able to sort of narrow the bandwidth of like sound. So like only it's very like it's specifically for you. And then that sort of helps push the, am I going crazy? Because only I can hear all this stuff.
Right.
And again, this technology has been around for, honestly, probably since the 60s.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All right. So next.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
Goonies never say die.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now back to our show. So next, or the one after this, I guess, would be July 30th, 2023. So almost a year and a month later.
Okay.
And that is Michael David Hicks. He was 59, a planetary scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, some people know it as JPL, for nearly 25 years. He had a PhD in lunar and planetary science. He was an expert on the physical properties of comets and asteroids. He contributed to the DART asteroid deflection mission, some near-Earth asteroid tracking, a mission called Dawn, Deep Space One, eight before Deep Space Nine, and published over 80 peer-reviewed papers. So I thought this was fascinating. I looked up what DART was, okay? It was the first ever test of planetary defense where we actually slammed a spacecraft into an asteroid to see if it would change its path. And this happened in September 2022. NASA launched this sort of refrigerator-sized spacecraft straight at Dimorphos, a small asteroid that was orbiting a bigger one called Didymos. It sort of reportedly worked better than expected. The impact shortened the orbital period, and it proved to these scientists that, at least for smaller asteroids, we could use a kinetic impactor, basically a high-speed crash, to deflect a threat if one was ever headed our way. And I think that's interesting, right? So now if you can categorize each of them, right, you had Amy,
sort of anti-gravitic.
Anti-gravity. You've got Michael David Hicks, or Dr. Hicks here, who specialized in sort of planetary defense. Think of the old school arcade game like Asteroids or whatever. And, shooting down potential asteroids coming to Earth, right?
Yeah.
So his family stated that he had a chronic medical condition. And what's interesting, though, is they asked that the specific cause of death not be released publicly.
Yeah. Which I'm not going to sort of bury the lead here, but there is a theme with a lot of these and the sort of the cause of death that gets sort of backed up by family that makes me wonder if there's sort of ongoing threats to the family if certain things aren't said or are said surrounding their deaths or disappearances.
Then July 4th. So again, there's about a year space between Amy and Dr. Hicks. Then another year. So this is now the 4th of July, 2024. And this is Frank Mywald, 61, another longtime Jet Propulsion Laboratory researcher who passed away in Los Angeles. He specialized in Earth observation instrumentation and microwave radiometry. So again, anytime there's things like this that I didn't study, I'm like, okay, what's this? Well, think of this. Instead of using visible light or infrared cameras to look at Earth from space or even look at Earth, from Earth, they instead use microwave radiometers that measure the natural microwave emissions that everything on the planet gives off. Oceans, land, atmosphere, even ice and snow. These microwaves can pass right through clouds, fog, rain, which makes it, super useful for getting reliable data 24/7, no matter what the weather looks like. And they use it to measure things like sea surface temperature, salinity in the ocean. You know how salty the water is, how much salt
I got
is in
it.
Okay.
I got it.
The soil moisture on land, atmospheric water vapor and precipitation, even things like ice thickness and snow cover. So anyway, that's what he was the expert in and specialized in that instrumentation. And again, his obituary was pretty brief. It just says passed away, and there's no public cause.
Yeah. I looked up him as well, and I guess his family refused to comment on the cause of death, which again I think is
on the surface. If it was just these three, probably wouldn't even be talking about it right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Sure.
So now we're into 2025. This is when the disappearances start to ramp up. May 8th, 2025. Anthony Chavez, who's 78, he's a retired construction foreman who had worked at Los Alamos National Lab for years.
And you know what that is?
Go ahead.
Los Alamos is close to the Roswell crash in 1947.
And he was last seen leaving his home on foot in Los Alamos. Still missing.
Yeah.
Then, so that's May. Now, June 22nd, 2025. Monica Jacinto Reza.
Very good.
60 years old. She is the director of the materials processing group at JPL. Okay? A materials and processes engineer that's focused on advanced alloys, burn-resistant high-strength superalloys, including basically co-inventor work on Mandalloy, which is for rocket engines.
Yeah, which is like a new metal for spacecrafts.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
She was also a longtime technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne, okay, which I didn't know what that was. I looked it up. It's the major rocket propulsion company whose engines have powered everything from the Saturn V moon rockets to modern Mars missions.
And maybe even
and
up
the
to
Artemis program, I think.
To the new fake Artemis, yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, she even invented that special super alloy called Mandalloy. It's basically because it can handle insane heat and stress.
Right.
Her work also had ties to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
Oh, and so that's interesting too, because Wright-Patterson supposedly is where the craft was discovered at Roswell, and then supposedly they boarded all that up into a plane. Those planes disappeared, and they carried it to Wright-Patterson.
Right, which is the home of the Air Force Research Lab. They also developed next-gen propulsion and advanced materials for military and space applications.
Right.
So she held high-level security clearances, as you'd expect. Now listen to this.
Oh, this is straight missing 411.
She vanished while hiking in the Angeles National Forest in the Crescenta Valley area north of L.A.
Yep.
God, I mean, probably so close to where we were.
Yeah.
On our days off when we were recording our album. But anyway, she's separated from her group, and then extensive searches turned up nothing. She still remains missing.
So this is a quote from the police. Police say Reza was about 30 feet behind the person she was with. Again, this is like prime missing 411 activity. About 30 feet behind the person she was with, smiling and waving. When the person turned back around, a few seconds later, she was gone. Rescue teams searched for days, but her body was never recovered.
I mean, it's almost like stereotypical stuff.
100%. Yeah. Oh, and if you're new here, Missing 411 is these sort of mysterious disappearances in national parks by a guy named David Paulides. There's 2 documentaries. I think they're both on Hulu. Go check them out.
Yeah. Same month, June 26th, 2025, Melissa Casillas was this administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Lab with a security clearance as well. And she disappeared from the Rancho de Taos after just a normal day. Again, still open case, completely missing. So now we've got 3 that have just, poof, disappeared.
Well, the interesting thing with her, and this is common with a few others that you'll see, is apparently she forgot her work badge And so she worked from home that day. She took her daughter to lunch and then totally disappeared. She was last seen walking alongside a highway without her phone, wallet, or keys, supposedly.
Man.
So, yeah, just kind of up and disappeared.
Then August 28th, 2025, Stephen Garcia, who was a government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus, also known as the KCNSC. Now, again, I'd never heard of it. I didn't know that this place is a big deal in America's nuclear program. It's one of the key facilities run for the Department of Energy's National Nuclear Security Administration. The campus produces more than 80% of all the non-nuclear components that go into the U.S.'s nuclear weapons stockpile. So we're talking about things like, the electronics, the timers, the fuses, conventional explosives, mechanical parts, high precision sensors, and engineered materials that make the weapon safe, reliable, secure, all of that stuff. The actual nuclear material, like the plutonium or uranium or whatever, comes from other sites like Los Alamos or Sandia, but almost everything else that makes a warhead work, essentially the brains and the body of this thing, is built right here at the Kansas City campus. They also have facilities and operations tied into New Mexico, which is where Garcia was working. It is high security, and again, high stakes work that requires top level clearance, right? Well, he left his Albuquerque home on foot, carrying a handgun. Authorities noted concerns that he might be in danger to himself, but still missing. So that's 4 in a row. Same year, within a couple weeks of each other, really. All missing.
And there's this other common thread of, like, I feel like I'm in danger.
Right.
And the other thing, too, that I feel, and I mean, I'm sure we'll kind of get into this a little bit later, but I do feel like there's, if you look at something like the Philadelphia experiment or something like that, it's like the way a lot of these things work is, your debunkers would say, well, there's no way, I know a person who worked here and they've never seen anything weird. It's like, well, they do this through compartmentalization. So, this person works in this lab that only does this thing. And like for example, this guy, he works in a facility where they do like sensors and all these other things that, if you can sort of pull back your 30,000 foot view, you see like, oh, all these things are put together to create this big thing that you don't see when you're in sort of a hyper focused sort of setting. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think Bob Lazar talks about that.
Right, exactly.
He had a specific job for a specific piece of reverse engineering. Right?
Yep.
Around this period of 2025, a guy named Joshua LeBlanc, who was this NASA nuclear propulsion engineer based in Huntsville, Alabama, was killed in a fiery car crash.
Well, now this one is fascinating.
That's all I got about it.
Okay, so it says Joshua had been working as an aerospace technologies electrical engineer at NASA since 2019. His Tesla drove 2 hours by itself on back roads before it crashed, killing Joshua. He wrote in another post that his family reported him missing in the investigator, I guess, that his family had reported him missing in the early morning. His Tesla is at the airport for 4 hours, belongings inside, so phone, wallet. The Tesla then drives 2 hours into nowhere and crashes into a tree, the body unrecognizable. His family suspects Joshua was abducted. Talking to Louisiana news sites, KLFY, they said the trip was sudden and he remained out of contact with them, something he never did. His phone and wallet were still inside the house. Which, again, the conspiracy theorists have been saying forever, sort of the self-driving aspect is that, I mean, you take control of the vehicle and you can do whatever you want, So, yeah, that one's interesting because the family is kind of pushing for answers, I think.
And again, just to highlight, he was a nuclear propulsion engineer, so another propulsion guy. December 2025, a guy named Nuno Loureiro, 47 years old, And he was this world-renowned plasma physicist and the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, which is one of the top fusion research labs in the country. Now, you might be thinking to yourself on a Monday when you listen to this episode, well, what exactly is a plasma physicist? Well, first we got to talk about plasma real quick. Plasma, as Tyler knows, is the fourth state of matter. Okay. Correct. After solid, liquid, and gas. It's what you get when you heat a gas so hot that electrons get stripped away from the atoms, creating this sort of supercharged, electrically conductive soup.
Right.
You see plasma naturally in lightning, the sun, stars, northern lights, all that. So plasma physicists study how this stuff behaves, especially under extreme conditions. Nuno was a theoretical expert in things like magnetic reconnection, basically how magnetic fields in plasma suddenly rearrange and release huge amounts of energy, and turbulence in plasmas. His work was sort of critical for understanding how to control plasma for fusion energy, where you smash light atoms together to release massive amounts of clean energy.
Yeah, again, if you're a long-time listener, you've heard us sort of speak of plasma as like, there's a possibility that that's what like the jinn were made out of. It says in the Quran that the jinn were created by God out of smokeless flame. And so, like what Woody was saying, clean energy, there's no like burn off necessary.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Basically, so the MIT Plasma Science Fusion Center is actually one of MIT's largest research labs altogether, and it kind of collectively brings hundreds of scientists, engineers, and students and stuff together to try to make fusion power a practical reality. Because like Tyler was saying, it's clean, safe, nearly unlimited energy with no carbon emissions and very little long-lived sort of radioactive waste. So they're just running these major experiments, developing, advanced magnets. Like there's these record-breaking high-temp superconducting magnets, and collaborating on international projects and stuff. So he actually became the director in 2024 after serving as deputy director, and he was sort of this like rising star in the field. He was shot and killed at his home near Boston by a former classmate who, had just carried out a shooting at Brown University the day before.
Yeah.
The suspect was a guy named Claudio Valente, and he's Portuguese, and he was a former classmate actually of Nuno at the same university in Portugal.
Yeah.
And apparently it's kind of
was reported, like a rival.
Yes, they're like academic rivals, and 2 days after he killed two other university students, he just went to Luriro's home in Massachusetts, rang the doorbell, and then shot him multiple times when he answered. I guess something that's interesting here is the shooter, this guy, the suspect, later died by self-inflicted gunshot wound.
There it is, bud.
Yep.
Sounds a little like MK Ultra.
Right. It's, I think still to this day, the police haven't really sort of proclaimed a clear motive, because there was no note, there was no recent sort of communication between the two. But some of the theories include, like you said, this long personal / academic grudge, mental health issues, resentment over, life and career paths. But all of these are so tragic,
Yeah.
In the same month of December 2025.
We will return after these messages.
It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire. You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you?
Is anyone out there?
We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show. Same month, a guy named Jason Thomas, which was this pharmaceutical chemical bio researcher, disappeared, and his body wasn't found until, I think, March of this year. So like a month ago. Mm-hmm. February. So now we're getting into now, right? Mm-hmm. And up until now, well, I mean, the ones in 2025, it's like after 2022, there was like about one a year, which, like I said, on the surface, doesn't really seem that intriguing in terms of pattern. Then as you get into 2024, there's more. And then several in 2025. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then now we're in 2026. In February of 2026, Carl Grillmeyer, 67 years old, retired Caltech astrophysicist with NASA's Infrared Processing and Analysis Center. He was an expert in exoplanets, galactic structure, and dark matter.
Yeah.
He was shot and killed on his front porch in L.A. County. Suspect was, I think, arrested.
Yeah, there's, I guess, detectives arrested Freddie Snyder later that day for carjacking and connected him to Grillmeyer's death. Although detectives believe the two men didn't know each other, Snyder had been arrested in December for trespassing on Grillmeyer's property while carrying a rifle. So, that sounds
still kind of weird, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Same month, February 27th, 2026, retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCasland, who previously commanded the Air Force Research Lab. Remember we just talked about that up in Ohio?
Yep.
What is that, Wright-Patterson, right?
Wright-Patterson, yep.
He oversaw hypersonics, directed energy, and advanced propulsion programs.
Yeah.
He left his Albuquerque home for what his family thought was a hike. He took his wallet, .38 revolver, but left his phone and glasses.
Yeah.
A lot of these things, I think, that stick out to me are those uncharacteristic things that people would leave behind.
Right.
He's still missing. His wife has spoken openly about his short-term memory loss, anxiety, sleep issues, and, basically she believes that he may have intended not to be found. Now, like I said...
Which, all those things could also be symptoms of gang stalking. Like,
hey, we're going to come after your family unless you disappear.
Or even something as, strange as, receiving, messages. So one of the uses of the voice-to-skull technology apparently was I think it's fairly anecdotal, but I think through the years they've kind of discovered that there could be a lot more credibility. There was an issue somewhere in the Middle East where they used this technology on, they say terrorist, but here in 2026, I don't know if I believe that anymore, from our news sources. But apparently they used that technology to basically be almost like Allah talking to these people in their head saying, put down your weapons. This is peace. So if you think about it, it's like, okay, suddenly you awake and you get out of your bed and you're hearing the voice of God in your head saying, go this way, leave this, make sure you grab a gun to be safe. I mean, who knows? It's totally purely anecdotal, hypothesizing here, but I mean, it's just like there's so many of these things that this kind of stuff could definitely be the answer. You know?
All right, and then most recently, I mean, I think within the last 2 weeks, week and a half, April 17th, 2026, James Tony Moffett, 60 years old, longtime aerospace engineer, military vet, former NASA payload and flight crew support. He ran his own consulting firm and did research engineering at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. His son Andrew, who was 30, he's also a research engineer at University of Alabama Huntsville's Rotorcraft Systems Engineering and Simulation Center. He was focused on advanced rotorcraft simulation and, you guessed it, propulsion.
Yeah.
The family, Tony, his wife, and his sons Andrew and William, were flying their Mooney M20, private plane from Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, back to Huntsville. And they had refueled in Union, South Carolina, and the plane crashed near the runway. All four tragically perished. They said that, because it's so fresh, so new, I should say, the investigation is still ongoing, and but that's, 2 more scientists.
Yeah.
So that kind of takes us through the confirmed names, right? And even just all of those collectively. Let's say that, so this is just the scientists as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's also other fields and other people that are somewhat, if not directly related, to these fields of study that have also disappeared.
Yeah, right. This one was pretty tough because as soon as I heard the name, I was like, how do I know that name? And then I looked it up and I was like, man, I've seen this guy on Ancient Aliens. I've seen him on a ton of UFO documentaries. And that's David Wilcock, 53-year-old guy that was all over the place. As soon as you see this, if you like this show, if you're a fan of the show, as soon as you see his face, if you don't know the name, you're immediately going to recognize him. He was an American paranormal writer, media personality, YouTuber. He was big in the disclosure movement with Stephen Greer and just on all kinds of shows, but just kind of a mainstay on Ancient Aliens. But the weird thing about him is he basically said a few days before, every day that I have on Earth is a gift and a blessing.
Every day that I have on Earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary.
He said this on April 19th, 2026. Then the following Monday, the cops received a phone call, which this is interesting too. The phone call said, I have to go. You'll find me at the left of the house, which is a little cryptic, a little strange. Mm-hmm. He shows the police show up. They sort of get cover and they can see a figure to the left of the house. They have a GUN in their possession. And after a minute or two, he used it on himself. He was also known for saying, a year or so before, I'd rather die once at the hand of an assassin than die every day in fear of an assassin. He would pretty consistently in these last few years make sort of comments about him sort of being in danger. He, the very last day that he was on the podcast on April 19th, he's basically talking about the missing scientist, talking about how it's, there's a lot of danger these days, even so much so that the president of the United States is coming out talking about it. So I don't know, man. It's really sad. He was a director of advanced technology at Starvati Aerospace. It's a defense firm that covers next-gen warfighter concepts and advanced propulsion. But yeah, he spent 2 decades covering UFO disclosure, classified programs, and suppressed science, as he says. And so, as if that's not horrible and kind of strange, especially the fact that he's talking about there being danger and talking about these missing scientists 2 days earlier, which David did not know of this. I'm guessing when he when he quote unquote ended his life. Mm-hmm. We find out that a guy named Win Free, which was David Wilcox's biographer and co-writer, he died just 2 days before as well. And the family refuses to come out and speak on how his death occurred. The interesting thing about this is he sort of worked as his publicist, I believe, as well. Mm-hmm. And they had just put out a book that they had co-wrote together called Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. So it's if you're a longtime listener of the show, or even just sort of adjacently into these kind of fringe topics, you really do see an overlap in sort of what your Stanton Friedman would call your nuts and bolts belief of UFOs, and then also sort of the more Joshua Cutchin, which I just texted him, or I was just talking with him yesterday. The sort of the esoteric, sort of not really a cult, but more sort of metaphysical views of UFOs and what they really are, maybe.
Right.
And so, yeah, this whole thing is just, it's so like strange and almost to the point of being so on the nose. Woody and I were talking about this morning. It's almost like so on the nose that my like discernment alarm kind of pops up, and I'm like, is all of this like also a psyop? You know what I mean? It's like, are none of these people actually like gone, and like this is some sort of psyop to continue to push some sort of thing that's coming? But I don't know, man. It's really strange. Looking into this, I found out that there's also anywhere from 9 to 11, and this was at least the last week of April. You find out that there's missing Chinese scientists or sort of mysterious deaths surrounding Chinese scientists also. They're all related to defense AI, hypersonics, quantum technologies. Deaths involve car crashes, sudden illnesses, or suicide, with some like 38-year-old defense AI expert Feng Yang happening while working on critical military projects. And this is from the year 2023 to 2026. Fang Daining was a hypersonics expert. He died following a somewhat mysterious medical episode abroad. In 2025, Li Minyong was a biomedical chemist, died after a sudden unexplainable illness. Zhang Daibing in 2025, drone technology expert. It doesn't give the death there. Zhang Zhaojin in 2024, space expert at the National Satellite Meteorological Center, died in a car accident. Liu Donghao, a data scientist, just has died after an accident. Tong Xiao, founder of AI giant SenseTime and computer vision researcher. Zhao Guangyan, which, man, I know I'm ruining these, but researcher in polymer materials and 863 program expert, died in another mysterious car accident. Fang Yanghe, AI researcher at the National University of Defense Technology, also died in a car crash. Sun Jian, chief scientist of AI company Megville Technology, died of sudden unexplainable illness. Chen Shuming, a military microelectronics expert, leader of high-end weapon chip research, died in a mysterious car accident. It says the deaths are concentrated in strategically significant fields where China faces bottlenecks, leading to speculation regarding high-pressure, demanding environments or potential interference, military AI, and war simulation. So Feng Yang-he was working on War Skull platform. Yeah, and it just gets into like some of the fields. One of the things that's very strange is
we'll return after these messages.
America's future can be determined by our dreams and our visions.
It was very intense, bright light.
For over 200 years, there have been reports of giant man-like creatures
from another dimension, another world. I don't know.
The most intriguing mystery on the North American continent.
This is Joshua Cutchin, and you're at my home for weirdness. That would be rad.
With Feng Yang-he back in with Feng Yang-he, who died in July of 2023, he had just left a late night work meeting at 2:35 a.m. when he died in a mysterious car crash in Beijing. He had been reportedly preparing simulations related to a potential invasion of Taiwan before the accident. Speculation surrounded the circumstances of his death and were fueled by the wording of his obituary, stating the scientist had been sacrificed while performing his official duties. So yeah, it's like there's just a lot of these weird things. Just before we got on the show today, I didn't really have time to like dig into this, but apparently there's also a possible 26 scientists from the UK that have also mysteriously disappeared, and there's deaths. Maybe we do like a follow-up on the next episode, or maybe even like a Patreon episode once we dig more into that. But Yeah, I think it's one of those things too where, here in the States, there's always, good or bad. There's always a magnifying glass on us because we're kind of head of a lot of things like culture and certain sciences and stuff. So I think it was probably a situation to where people started noticing, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, like, this same thing is happening in China. Oh, the same thing is happening across the UK. So yeah, I don't know. You want to get into
like
what we
theories
think
and stuff, yeah? Because I think first we can all kind of agree that it's intriguing. Using the word interesting is kind of weird when we're talking about people like disappearing and dying and stuff. But it's definitely intriguing, and it's hard not to. That's why I said, like at the top of the show, this isn't my typical sort of thing that I'm intrigued by.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard not to feel like something weird is going on here. I mean, some of the overlaps that kind of stand out in my mind. You've got multiple Jet Propulsion Laboratory ties, multiple Los Alamos connections, multiple nuclear and propulsion fields that and scientists that are working or dealing with, and not even scientists. Sometimes also like you have like assistants or administrative assistants that are in these buildings, the construction contractor, where they're dealing with advanced materials and fusion and hypersonics and directed energy and
also connections to Wright-Patterson also.
Yep, right.
That's sort of the crossover.
And then like things like planetary defense even. And so you've got a lot of people with very high security clearances, extremely specialized scientific knowledge and expertise.
Right.
And even geographic clusters around California, New Mexico, and Alabama. And the timing over just a few years coinciding with more sort of, UAP talk. I mean, I think that's all over the news lately too. It could be a distraction technique. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. Yeah. And
I'm proud of you.
You're welcome. And the thing is though, while yes, it's true that some of these cases, it's sort of, well, I don't know. Some of the stuff, it's easy, I think, for one to come to the conclusion like, well, the accidents happen. Sure. Again, do people have mental health things that they're dealing with? Absolutely. The focus that we have with this is the strange correlation with what they do, their field of study, and all of that. And so because the internet is what it is now, it sort of excels at spotting these patterns. Tyler, one time, not one time, we were at our buddy's wedding last week, and we were kind of talking about this stuff at the reception dinner with our friends' wives and stuff.
And I hated it.
And one of the things about, I guess, conspiracies in general that I always kind of look for in my mind, not even before, this happens before Tyler tells me the newest one. In my mind, I'm like, to what end? What is the why, right? And so, and oh crap, I lost my train of thought. What was it that there was something that you said?
You're talking about like the old world stuff?
No.
The Challenger?
No. You see what I mean, folks? You can list them off all day long. No, it was something. It was something along the lines of, "Dadgummit, man."
Got real pissed at Daniel.
You did.
I did.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. But you did.
He's young though. He'll get there. Was it a topic we were talking about?
No.
Oh, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was, but it was something like
World's Fairs, fires.
No, hold on. Completely forgot. Anyway, like I think all of these, where I'm at right now with what's going on, is it's sort of like my mind is trying to decide, is it coincidence or conspiracy? Now, it's hard to say that word because instantly, myself included, you hear the word conspiracy and immediately you think, of all the ones that are out there, even the most bizarre, and we have to remember what the definition of the word is, right? So a belief that some influential or controlling organization or group is secretly responsible for a notable event or phenomenon.
Right.
And so it is difficult in this case for me not to think something's going on. There's got to be some sort of correlation I say there's got to be. It seems like there's some sort of correlation, and that's really kind of what my theories kind of surround that. Like, what would be the reasoning behind it? And one of the things that first popped in my head, well, there's a couple. One of them being, okay, these folks are coming up with clean, efficient energy, right? That's unmatched. If you were the first person and or country to come up with that intellectual property, that idea, the theory, the designs, the engineering behind it all, there's so much money involved in that. And and then so now other competing governments or organizations would be after that stuff. Simultaneously, you've got energy organizations that have so much money. There's so much money behind oil, gas, coal, and all of that.
Fake fossil fuels.
All of those, okay, but they're fuels that, all of those fuels and those companies that control that stuff. I mean, for example, what happened when solar power now is so efficient and stuff, okay? Well, what happened when that efficiency started to increase? Who bought those companies?
Oh, yeah.
Oil, gas, coal. You know what I'm saying? So why? Well, on the surface, on paper, it's so that they can, diversify their portfolio and diversify their offerings and all this. But you have to question, or are they just kind of like pushing that progress down with their heel so that they can still make the money that they're making? Yeah. So I'm thinking when this stuff started happening, specifically sort of earlier on, a couple months ago, when it was still just like 7 scientists, Yeah. I started thinking like, well, maybe it's some sort of corporate espionage to try to keep that technology. I mean, dude, it's happened before. When we're talking about Amy, okay, remember she was the anti-gravity technology girl.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
What does it remind you of? You told me this a long time ago. One of the reasons why I was like, okay, maybe we could do a podcast. Do you remember with Tesla and...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's like the free energy, 0 point, cold fusion, all that kind of stuff.
And like, there's all these historical rumors about people who have developed, you can drive a car with water and like all this stuff that would essentially be like endless supply, almost cost nothing for the consumer.
Right.
And somehow those people die. The technology gets washed away. It's in the patent office somewhere. And it's
that's what happened with Tesla as well. Like that's what you were saying. Yeah.
Not Tesla, the company now.
Right. Nikola
Tesla. Yeah. And so I thought of that when that happened. The other thing that's interesting is you've got these people who are set up for like planetary defense and all these other technologies. And you and I talked about this, I think, when we were just like, we have to do this episode. When you think of people like Bob Lazar and Roswell and some of the stuff that came allegedly out of that, which was reverse engineering technology from... call it aliens, call it from somewhere else.
A downed crash.
Yeah, a downed crash. There's, machinery or something that exists that isn't ours, and we want to learn how to use it.
Right.
Then
the myth around that is...
Oh, I didn't know you were going to explain my theory.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. The myth.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I think that, by the way, that was hilarious, too. People in real time got to see our back and forth banter at the reception dinner. And they were just like, man, just laughing because it's like, are they mad at each other? Are they not mad at each other?
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
I think that's like one of my favorite things about when you're friends with somebody for like almost 20 years at this point. It's like you develop like a shorthand and...
No, it's more than 20 years now, dude.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Like 25, 26, 27, something like that.
God, that's crazy. Yeah. When you're, and especially for Woody and I, like usually those friendships, you talk to them maybe like, once every few months, kind of like that. But like Woody and I literally call each other every day.
Yeah.
Every morning. And so we've developed this shorthand, and then also doing the podcast and stuff. It's like, it keeps us close, but then it's funny because we'll like totally disagree on things, but like, I'll know that if we're talking about something that I can circle back to this other topic that he does believe in, that I can like get him there. So it's like this, it's probably like whiplash watching.
We also don't take it personally.
Right.
We got rid of that long ago. We also know, and we've talked about this on the show before, the exact buttons to push.
Oh,
to
yeah,
just
pup.
make the other one so mad. It's just so funny. Okay.
Yeah,
but,
me calling Woody pup.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Especially whenever, like, you know that the other one is stressed about something.
Yeah, they're already
For example,
pissed off.
running late or whatever. And
Oh,
you're like,
yeah.
everything doing okay over there, pup? Whew, man. That's
Yeah.
the best. Okay.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, maybe some of these, it's just, I can't decide in my mind whether or not it's like these people, are being taken out by, let's just say, let's go on the extreme end here. Aliens that know that, these guys know how to defend the planet. These aliens are smart enough to find them, boom, they take them out. Now we're left just, let me say it again. Now we're left defenseless. Or is it, hey, these people are saying, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to say all this stuff.
Right.
And, it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre, man. And I do feel for all the families because no matter what, unless you're leaning into the Tyler theory that all of it's fake, I feel for the families because no matter what.
I'm not saying that's true.
I'm just saying I feel for the families because no matter what, they've lost someone close to them.
Oh, sure.
And they have to grieve with this and their names are going to be just like on TV,
right.
Maybe they were a fan of our show before and now they're like, man.
Now they hate us. Yeah.
Especially that Tyler guy. Like we heard last week, he's very sickly looking. He doesn't feel well.
Never
could
gets
be
sun.
mistaken for a woman. There's all kinds of things that they learn on our show.
Yeah. Then they also learned that Woody had his ears pinned. And he got calf implants.
God almighty, dude.
On talking about this, one thing that sort of popped up when I first started hearing about this, and I feel like there's a lot of difference too. So if you're a longtime listener, you may know this. I don't know that we've talked about it, but there's a guy named Stanley Meyer who supposedly created a fuel cell that could use water to basically power automobiles. And I think like a gallon would go something like almost 100 miles. Like it was something crazy. I think he was on Coast to Coast, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The urban legend is that mid-90s, I can't remember the exact date, but he was supposed to meet with investors. Apparently him and his brother met with these guys, and I think as the story goes, he ended up getting angry when I guess they had sort of allowed him to know that, hey, we're gonna take this, we want to buy your patent and then we want to take it to sort of government contractors or whatever. He was upset about that. He ends up they're meeting at a restaurant publicly. Him and his brother get up from the table and then they go outside in the parking lot. He grabs his chest and he says, they've poisoned me, and literally kills over dead. Come to find out, years later, his brother ended up sort of looking into who these guys were, and they were actually already government officials. Now, whether they poisoned him or not, I'm not saying either way, but it is very strange. And it is something that once you start messing around with sort of the idea of like fossil fuels and people that are very, 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 very wealthy because of these things, it does tend to get like very dangerous. I mean, I do think that Nikolai Tesla was probably getting close, if not also sort of taken out by these people. That being said, this is weird because it's so like each person that we've listed is very like niche and very granular, specific on their sort of expertise. But like we were saying in the beginning, sort of the idea of like the Manhattan Project, it's like, and Bob Lazar, it's that compartmentalization that's intentional, and then you sort of start panning out, the guy the overseer of the project is able to see, oh, well, this whole lab that's devoted to just creating this little tiny sensor, he's crucial to this because it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I wonder if some of these people started figuring out like where their expertise, their fields of expertise were, like what they were contributing in the grand scheme of of things, you know? So like maybe, but like my theory on this, and I'm in agreement to some other people who have kind of proposed this online. This is not like my original idea, but it's sort of the idea that maybe there is something coming out on sort of a grand scale, and they're sort of trying to get in front of it because they know that these are the people who would push back publicly on these topics.
So you're saying that maybe they come out like an official statement that is X, Y, and Z, and, you know, groups
like a blue beam or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like they know, okay, well, in however we're going to make this happen, however we're going to, you know, shift this narrative or manipulate this narrative, these are the people who would be able to come out and say, no.
Yeah, contradict that, right?
I'm a scientist. This is wrong, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's sort of my theory. I still do go back and forth on, it just seems so, I mean, I know like people are waking up, you know, this sort of great awakening. If you've sort of looked into this chart, which there's this huge chart that's called like the Great Awakening chart. And it's funny because David Wilcock is in this, Stephen Greer's in it. And it's this idea that like people start waking up and they start seeing the bigger picture of, you know, we already have had anti-gravitics for years. We already know this. We're going to do blue beam. We're going to, you know, to push this narrative. It's like, yeah, I wonder why they're not, you know, if we're looking at this as we're believing every bit of, or we're believing that like all these people were taken out in a mysterious manner. It's weird to me that they've been able to sort of go along with just calling these people lunatics or crazy conspiracy theorists or da-da-da-da, which, by the way, I don't think anybody was calling the scientists that, right? No, they were. Like David Wilcock's been called that. Yeah. The girl, Erin, was called, or Amy had been called that forever. Like the more sort of fringe anti-gravity sort of, they were like, oh, these, you know, they're just crazy. And it's like, well, they're actual scientists. So, you know, but it's weird to me that they would go through with like just totally taking these people out instead of just labeling them as like crazy conspiracy theorists.
I just don't think it works anymore, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying with this Great Awakening. I do think people are waking up a little. And so people aren't buying it as much anymore. But at the same time, it almost seems like, and this is where my idea goes that, oh, well, this is just a psyop. This whole thing is just a psyop, is that it's like all of these people, like now this is a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like shining like a much bigger light instead of these individual people just painting them as crazy conspiracy theorists. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I've got one last sort of theory to wrap it all up.
Okay.
Something that I kind of read about. So imagine every single one of these people, let's just go with the original like 11 or 12, was approached by the U.S. government to help to design something that is only for a limited amount of people, including, you know, government, people that are, you know, in positions of in the government from president down, and their families. And so imagine, you know, like a bunker of sorts, but is big enough to basically keep, you know, let's just say 2,000 people alive.
Okay.
So they're approached to design this thing. It's completed, and then they get taken out one by one, so that that doesn't leak and panic doesn't ensue. In other words, they know that you know, initially maybe they're brought on the project, you know, hey, this is just an experiment to see if we can maintain life in a safe area if we were to be attacked, be it nuclear war, be it alien invasion, be it creatures from Middle Earth, or, you know, whatever. Middle Earth.
Yeah, inner Earth.
Yeah, come on. I've been, you know.
Hollow Earth.
Got it wrong.
Middle Earth.
However, that's not my favorite mistake of the episode. My favorite mistake of the episode was whenever you're going through these Chinese names and you said his age as 23. So
hey man, I thought we were taking it.
I'm leaving it in there. Anyway, so the theory is that these people were privy to information that's even above and beyond just their sort of normal academic credentials. And because of that, they were taken out so that, the whole world doesn't just panic because there's this ensuing catastrophe that's about to occur. I've read different versions of what that is. One of them is, solar flare stuff and all kinds of stuff.
EMP.
So, and then we get back to the reason why I don't really typically dive into this stuff, which is it gets hard to be positive about anything. Mm-hmm. So all of that to say, I don't know. I don't know what to think, but it's kind of, in a way, man, it is kind of terrifying.
It's terrifying, but for me, it also, there's something about this that reminds me of this author named Diana Walsh Pasulka, her book, American Cosmic. If you haven't read it, the audiobook is so horrible, so don't listen to that, but you should read it. And there's something about it that's pretty fascinating. So she was like really big into like sort of religious studies, and she actually was able to research a previous book. She was researching like the saints and they're like some of the more sort of paranormal or sort of super powered, if you will, like saints, like bilocation and levitation, and a lot of the saints of the latter years were able to do these kind of things. So it was intriguing to her. She was writing a paper, and somehow she was granted access to be able to have her research at the Vatican. In that, she started realizing that there was a connection with this kind of stuff, and then also the idea of extraterrestrials and UFOs. Somehow she gained a connection with this guy that she just calls Tyler. Originally, that was sort of a code name for like Tyler Durden. Nobody knew who he was. He was like a tech billionaire, but he was heavy into the idea of like AI and certain extraterrestrial intelligences like working through AI. It's a sprawling work, but it's really, really cool. But anyway, all that to say is it's this sort of melding of things that shouldn't work. So the idea of like a David Wilcock, talking about the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, who is known as the sleeping prophet. We've talked about him on the show. He, was able to go into these trance-like states, and he supposedly knew exactly where Atlantis was. And what's funny is like at the time they didn't know, but he actually kind of laid out that it was sort of Bimini Row, which is down by like the Bermuda Triangle. And so it's this idea that like you have astrophysicists, you have people working on anti-gravitic technologies. Also, we left out like several of these people worked as consultants to the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge's sort of government cutout, which I kind of think is probably a psyop. But it's still interesting that all these like things that shouldn't go together, sort of are all kind of interconnected. So there's something about that reminds me of that. Some of the stuff that happens in American Cosmic, and it's also called like the intellectual dark web, and the invisible college, she names it, to where it's these people that are like tech billionaires and like high up clergy in the Vatican, and it's like all these weird like high positioned people that shouldn't have any kind of connection, but yet they are, kind of like the, can't say his name, J.E., who had an island, who was known for terrible stuff. In some of these emails, you're seeing that like he had a huge interest in ascension and DNA testing and like all these weird kind of things that like, I think for us, when we think of these people that are like a Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, you just sort of assume like, oh, this guy's just walking around like talking computers all day. When in reality, it's like, no, they're more interested in these other really fringe things, kind of like your Elon Musk, who's talking about sort of, placing your soul basically into some sort of like digital matrix so that you can live forever, Anyway, I know I'm rambling, but yeah, this is a fascinating topic. It is pretty sad. One more thing that I'll say that I did hint at the beginning of the show is, and I want to tread lightly with this, I don't think that I this is all sort of allegedly, and this is my opinion, but I do think it's strange that a lot of these stories, especially the ones where these people have gone missing, or I mean, really both, missing, unaliving themselves. I find it very strange that the family is so quick to just come out and say, "Oh, he did this to himself," when I think your natural sort of predilection would be to preserve their name in death, sort of preserve their legacy. Like, for example, the general who was like pretty high up, Los Alamos, Wright-Patterson, Air Force general, into a lot of things, really, really high up. It's like his family was so quick to say, "Oh, well, he left with a gun and, we're pretty sure he went off because he knew he wasn't going to come back." And it's like, I just don't think that's your natural response. So I do wonder, in saying that, I'm not saying that I think the families were like in on it or anything like that, but I am saying if we are taking it at face value and these people have been, kind of knocked off by the powers that be, if you will, I wonder if there also haven't been like additional threats that we'll just never hear about.
No, for sure.
So it's like, well, you saw what happened with your husband. Yeah. We need you to come out and make a pretty clear statement on, you knew that he was going to unalive himself.
There's already been 22. Don't make it 23.
Okay, that's enough. If you like this episode, despite all of the horrible pronunciation of the Chinese names, let us know. Join us over on our Instagram. Shoot us a line, join the conversation, shoot us a DM if you have your own urban legend. You've heard of a new scientist that's also disappeared or mysteriously, been killed. Tell us about it. If it's more long form, you can do so over on our Gmail. That would be radpod@gmail.com. If you would like to talk about it and possibly become a piece of That Would Be Rad history, you can do so with our voicemail feature on our website, thatwouldberadpodcast.com. We'd love that. That's the stuff we love. And also recorded a bumper, something along the lines of, when I'm not out, researching dead scientists, I like listening to That Would Be Rad. We love those things. Yeah, the more the merrier. So drop yours if you're brave enough. Leave a 5-star review. Tell a weird friend about the show. If you want to support us in real time, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon, The Rabbit Trail. It's more of what you love. We always say this, but we do plan on this year pumping out more and more episodes. And it's just the best way to like support the show and to show your appreciation for us, because at the end of the day, it's Woody and I that do everything from graphics to sound design to mixing to, any and everything is just two guys that are friends and have been friends for, twin flames. I almost said twin flames. I knew you were just waiting. Just two friends that are just rambling, and somehow we have people that enjoy listening to it. But yeah, it's a great way to do that. I think that's it. What do you got? Anything else?
I think that's it, pal.
All right, pal. Well, we love you. We appreciate you. And as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. My favorite song on the radio.
clouds in a time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of flowers, but now all that's left is a single rose. That's the way it goes.
Hold on. Let me take it again. Toilet flushed.
Shh.